Above their heads, stealing for all to see. El Cachorro, El Cachorro. There's a dawn superheroes here today for you and me. El Cachorro, El Cachorro.
What's up, Cachorrites? Welcome back to another El Cachorro versus anime video. And finally we're getting the one that I've been kind of alluding to a little bit here. And it's going to be a doozy, because it's a lot, and I'm going to have a lot to say about this, because this is the anime that really kind of hooked me in. And our other ones, Dan and Dan is an action anime with a love story in there, kind of side story. And while Ranma is at its best a rom-com with a bunch of karate and action, this one's not going to have much action. This one's straight romance. And I don't know, it hooked me. Maybe it's I'm a sad, lonely, nerdy guy. But this one tore at the heartstrings a little bit and definitely hooked me. So it came up as I was watching an episode of Ranma. You finished because it was being released on a weekly cycle. You finish the episode, and then it pops up at the end. Like Netflix gives you suggestions. And this is late at night, and so I'm laying down and go to sleep. And this one pops up on the bottom, and it's got a ridiculous sounding name. And just clicked on it, read the little blurb about it. I was like, this sounds ridiculously crazy. Whatever, we'll put it on and go to sleep to it. I ended up binging the whole first season without sleeping. I was staying up all night watching this shit. And if you never, obviously you've seen the title of the video, so we know we're talking about the Quintessential Quintuplets. I mean, come on, look. You see that name pop up at the bottom of your suggested screen, and it's going to make you say, what now? Like, what? What are we talking about now? So this was my introduction to romance anime. It was a introduction to what I've now found out is called the harem anime, where you have multiple characters in love with the main character. Which is kind of, I guess, not kind of shunned on, as a lot of people don't kind of seem to talk negatively about these kind of animes. Just the video there, picture. So you can see these are all our main characters here, and we got a little video. So we got a little intro package. So our main guy is Futaro Yusugi, and that's the voice actor. He's a super high-tech, super nerd, very top of his class. That his family though is poor. His mother has passed away, so it's his father and his little sister. So he's trying to help them get out of debt. So he's also looking for a job to make money for them, so he can help his family out money wise while he's going to school. And then I think we're going to introduce our sisters by age. This comes up quite often in the show, is which one's like the youngest sister, which one's the eldest sister, when they're quintuplets, so they were all born at the same time. There's one of the first episodes has a line where they were all pretty much like, yeah, you're all like born together, but I guess you technically are the oldest sister. So, but they always make this big factor. Oh, you're the big sister, you're the older sister, you're the. It's like, by what, 5 minutes? But so she's the eldest, Ichika Nakano. She always does a good job of taking care. She is shown to be quite lazy and messy. And at the beginning, she's keeping a secret from her sisters. And that kind of becomes we'll talk about that as we get to it. As it finds out, and she becomes like the responsible one that takes care of her sisters. Our second eldest is Nino Nakano, who is a fan favorite. So I guess we'll get that out of the way right off the bat. But she doesn't start off that way. She cares about her sisters the most, but she's about trying to keep her family together. She's a good cook. She's pretty much in the first season. She is our main character's kind of main rival in the first season because she's doing everything she can in spite of him. And she also has issues with one of her sisters. And everyone's favorite. I was glad to find out because this was my favorite too, and she's the most popular one, is Miko. She's quiet, reserved, she's passive, she's very shy. We quickly find out that she also has a nerdy love for like history, science of like old warlords. She also is one of the better ones at pretending to be her. She's one is really good at pretending to be her other sisters. And I mean, she's like I said, she's the fan favorite. That you kind of first girl you kind of really most people pull for. Then we get the wild and quacky Yotsuba. She's energetic. She's friendly. She's the people pleaser. She always wants to help everyone else. She's an athlete. She's the sportiest of the group. And we have a lot to say about her as we go on as well, depending on if have seen the show or not. And then our youngest one is Itsuki. She's serious. She's hardworking. She's diligent about her studies. She's also being clumsy a lot. She likes to eat, so she gets picked on for her eating habits. But she's kind of hard-headed and stubborn. And she also is one of the ones that gives our main character kind of a lot of headaches until they finally start to kind of agree and mesh together here with each other. So overall, we'll start getting some story stuff. So I don't know what brought me in is these characters were are deep. They're and they have a lot of good build to them. So like I said, he's got a lot of staleness at the front. He comes off as an asshole very early on. He's super rigid about studying, but we watch him grow, and we see there's more to his character. We see when he opens up, we see what's pushing him to be the way he is, and we see him, become, a better person and grow a heart, as I guess you could say. Our characters here, as I said, we see her grow. As the story goes on, she grows to where she at first is very self-centered. She wants to just keep it's all because pretty much they all start off as this. As long as we're all five together, nothing can change. And she's the one who's trying to keep them all together and resist them change. But she opens up and starts to change. She's about overcoming her shyness and putting herself out there more. Her character arc is about her, learning to accept things for herself, to become more about herself and allow herself to be happy instead of always putting everyone else in front of her. These two, I mean, she's kind of our cultural person. She's probably, I mean, if anything, well, she learns about, can't really say too much about her, but like, I'm getting spoilers. She has some very hard lessons that she has to learn. So we'll talk about some of her deeds. She's got to have is the one that has the what's the word we're looking for here? The retribution. I can't think of. There's a word I can't think of. So she takes a. So she goes down a path and she has to redeem herself. There's the word, redeem. And then Itsuki's all about learning to trust and all that stuff. Become more opening. So overall, I mean, the character death is good. The story's good. There's good drama. There's parts that brought tears that made me kind of like tear up a bit because there's some amazing parts and parts that that hit the heartstrings and the character. So it's I really got done. This is really what got me going into this anime kick up currently on, and I haven't made videos for it, but I've watched like 5 more, I think, by now that we'll end up talking about. One I had to go back. One of them actually had to go read the manga because it didn't get a third season. So that kind of really got me on. That's really kind of because this one like really hit me hard for some reason. I don't know. As like I said, I don't really know why. So I got kind of obsessed with this one. And I might go back. I've watched it a couple times and watched some of it in Japanese. So this might end up being a long video because there's a lot to cover in this one. It's got 2 seasons. Its third part was a movie that wrapped up the whole show. Then they did 2 specials. So they have 5 things all together. So I might have to, and because this is one I'm probably going to rig on about a bit, so we might have to break this into parts. So this might be the first one that gets several parts as we get into the breakdown that we're talking about the show, about the story arcs. So if you haven't seen it and you like romance stuff like this is definitely worth watching. This is, from my understanding, this is actually one of the more in-depth ones for the animes, because supposedly a lot of the harem animes, the characters are pretty wooden and don't have much depth to them, where this one is one of the ones well regarded for having depth in its characters and growth, and it makes some steps and misfollies along the way, but we will adjust that. So let us begin our spoiler breakdown. So if you haven't watched it and you don't want spoilers, this will be the part where you might want to stop it. But hey, feel free still to subscribe and follow. Subscribe and follow, it's the same thing. Subscribe and like. And also comment, like you said, we got some cool ones I should put on my list. I've gone through, watched a ton of YouTube videos and added shows to the list. Make sure you comment down below. So now, the people that stick around, we will break down our episode. So we know right off the bat, the open show is that he marries one of them. So we know our character is going to marry one of the girls. So we get that, and then we get flashbacks of their story. So, like I said, a lot of the big feud is these two like to butt heads a lot, as well as he also butts heads with Nino. Nino and Miku also have are pretty much antagonists. That's for the first season for the most part. We get some the players kind of switch around a little bit in season 2, but we start off with is the big feuds would be him with her with Itsuki and him with Nino, and then Nino and Miko are kind of go off or pretty much butt heads a lot. So we open the show. He's getting lunch. We've seen that he's frugal about his money and spending, so he's good at saving money. And when he goes to sit down, he bumps into Itsuki. They both go to sit at the same table, and neither of them both of them are stubborn, so neither of them refuses to go to another table. So they end up sitting together. He's pretty much studying over the test he just took, so he's kind of not really paying attention to her, which she felt is kind of rude. And she sees his test, so she grabs it to see. It was like, wow, you were studying. You must have did really bad. She finds out he has a perfect score because he's a super nerd. And so it gives her the idea where she says, well, will you help me study? And he kind of blows her off. And it's because she has a ton of food, because he's like, cause he couldn't believe how much money she spent on food. And he insults her about her saying she'll gain weight. So he pisses her off right off the bat because he's a clueless nerd, and then he's just not going to recognize a cute girl coming and asking him for help. Meanwhile, he gets a phone call from his little sister telling him that they found him a job. It's a tutoring job that pays 5 times the normal rate. Which, hey, that's a great deal for him. She's telling him about it, and she goes, it's for some new transfer student from some girl that just transferred, a rich girl that's just transferred, named Nakano. And then he goes to his class, and Itsuki's in his class, and they get introduced as the new transfer student, Itsuki Nakano. So he realizes he just pissed off the girl he's just got a job to tutor. So now his mission is he needs to find a way to get back on her good side. So the whole next day is about him trying to do that. When he goes, his goal is to try and sit with her at lunch and sweet talk her. But then he finds she's sitting with a table full of her girlfriends. And she kind of smirks, oh, there's no room for you. So I lost the picture. So as he walks away dejected, we see the other girls start to introduce themselves to him. First is Ichika, who kind of comes up and grabs him and starts questioning about that does he like it, accusing him of kind of having a thing for Itsuki and just giving him a hard time, and then offering to help him. And he's like, no, I don't need help. I will solve my own problems. And it's when she first gets herself, well, don't worry, your big sis Ichika's here if you need her. And he's like, then he sits at his table, he's kind of mulling on what to do, and he looks up, and there's Yotsuba looking at him in the face. She's saying his name, and supposedly he dropped his test paper on the ground, so she picked it up, realized that saw him drop it, and so she was returning it. And he also shows her one that has a 0 score, and saying that that's hers. So, and then she kind of follows him around a little bit, trying to get him, get him talking to her. And also she's like, I'm waiting for you to say thank you. I picked something you dropped and you never said thank you. So he hands her back her 0 because she had given it to him. He says, well, you dropped this 0. I found, here you go back. And she's bubbly and says, thank you back. And she says, thank you. After school, and he's after school he tries to run into her again, and she's still hanging out with these girls. So he's got one of those little cupboard things where you put your face in and take your picture. And that's when he gets introduced to Miku, who catches him and goes over and confronts him and says, do you like staring at high school girls? And she says, and then he says, don't tell your friend Itsuki. And she goes, she's not my friend. And then they all together and it's questioning. So he gets to the address, and we meet our 5th girl, who kind of tries to block him from getting in. And Miko's there as well. And that's Nino, who's accusing him of being a stalker perv. And he's like, you don't live here. And he's kind of says, well, I kind of do. I'm supposed to be here. And he kind of busts past him. He runs, and he sees Itsuki get on the elevator. And he misses her. So he runs all the way up to the 30th floor and somehow makes it at the same time that she gets off the elevator and is walking to her room. So the elevator must have made a lot of stops on the way. And then they have their little confrontation on why are you following me, why you're here, and he introduces that he is her tutor, to which she's all upset that it's him. And we get the realization that then all the other girls show up, and he's like, you live with all your friends? And like, no, we're quintuplets. So I realize it's 5 times the normal rate because there's 5 times the girls that he's being hired to tutor. So then we cut to his first day of trying to tutor, and none of the girls are showing up except for the Yotsuba, she's right on board. She's ready to study from day one. So she's the first girl that he has convinced to go in and study and increase their grades. And she takes him room to room to all the other girls, who all straight out kind of reject him. And we have a funny scene where Ichika's sleeping. He goes to wake her up and finds out that she sleeps in the nude. That will become a common thing for Ichika, as the story goes. He's accused. We have our first little battle between Miko and Nino, as Miko thinks Fudoro took her gym jacket and finds out that Nino's wearing it while cooking. So they kind of all get their first gather together, and they're not really wanting to focus on the study, and they're all kind of doing their own thing, and which leads to Nino offering him some cookies and offering him a drink. That makes him pass out. She drugs him. So yeah, she drugs him, knocks him out, throws him in a cab, sends him home, just to find out that Itsuka's is rode along in the cab to pay for it and tell him that he should just give up, which he says he can't. And then his sister comes out and meets him and goes googly over Itsuka as being a student and invites her in for dinner. And she's got the cute little face that nobody can say no to. So Itsuka learns his financial situation is bad and he's doing the job because he needs the money for his family. So she kind of gets on board with letting him say, "Look, I'm not gonna study with you. I don't want anything to do with you. But if you want to keep trying to tutor us, go ahead." So then we see them. So he goes and meets him for a second time, and pretty much gives them a thing. You take this test. If you all pass this test, then because he gets the theory, he's like, well, I don't have to teach all of them. I'll just teach the ones that I need that are having the most trouble. So he gives them all a test, and they all flunk it, and he finds out they are all doing terrible, that they're all on the verge of failing. So then at the next day, he runs into them as they get out of their limo, and he's questioning them. He asks them a history question that they all don't know the answer to. But then as he's reviewing his notes, he sees that Miku knew the answer, but she didn't speak up. So that makes him want to question Miku. He tries to do it at lunch. He gets interrupted by Yotsuba and Ichika, and they talk about love, and this is where he claims that he has no interest in love. Love is for fools. He's out of school. You got to study and all this stuff. And then there's and Miko was kind of was going to tell him something, but then she doesn't. And the girl's kind of say something that makes her blush and run off, and then they accuse her, say, "Oh, she's in love. Miku's in love with someone." Then we cut to where he gets a note from Miku, asking him to meet on the roof. And this is where we get a little catch if you catch it, because while he's looking at the note in class, Itsuki walks by and says, "Why are you smiling, you creep?" So the bro's kind of happy that he got in love because he thinks it's a love letter. That he's like, wait, am I the one she's in love with? So he's kind of that shows that didn't really focus on it, but it shows that he is kind of happy he got this. So he just starts putting off, "Oh, she's pranking me, she's tricking me. It's a trick, and then she shows up, and he's like freaking out because he's afraid he's feeling that she's got to say she has feelings for him. And she answers his question that throws him off. Like, wait, what? And so, this is where he finds out that she has a love for Japanese history, for warlords, and that stuff that she got from playing a video game. So he's like, well, I can teach you that kind of stuff. I got an A in that, a perfect score in that class. I can teach you stuff like that. So she starts quizzing him, and he kind of like fumbles his way through all the answers. Until then, she buys him a soda to give it to him, and that he said he wanted to try at one point earlier. And she mentioned something from another story that he does not know, so she stumped him. So that causes him to go on a mad rush, studying a bunch of books, taking 2 days to read all these history books so that he can confront her again. And first, so there's like a little chase scene where she's kind of running from him. These are the worst two athletes, so they're like the slowest runway thing. So she's running from him, and he's spouting knowledge and stuff that he has for her. And finally, they both run out of energy and collapse to the ground. And they finally have a chat with each other. and he gives this big speech. So like, well, I can help. I will. You guys are all looking at this. There's potential for all of you to do better, and I can help you. And she starts getting him on board, and so he starts winning her over. To which they have a study group. Him and Yotsuba have a study group at the library, and Miku walks in. She picks up a bunch of books, puts them down. It's like, all right, I'm ready to push myself more and learn. It's like, you've won me over. So she officially joins their group. So she's now officially on board with the studying. At the end of the scene, as her Yotsuba going up to her and says, "Wait, is Yusugi the one that you're crushing on?" Which causes her to blush. So we also have our first hints of romance. One of the girls showing the first signs of being interested in the character, and of course, it's Miku. That's why everyone loves Miku. She's the first one to lead with her heart. So his promise is the next time they have a study session at her house that they're going to focus on Japanese history for her. So the next time they try to meet, Nino puts the kibosh and runs everybody off. She gets tells Yotsuba the basketball team's in dire need and they can't play unless they get another player. And she gets Itsuki to go study in the library, and each guy has to go to work. She tries to get rid of Miku, and this is where we start seeing her and Miku butt heads. Is everything she tries to throw at Miku, Miku's able to counter. She goes, "You owe me a soda. You need to go buy me a soda." She's like, "Oh, it's right there." "You owe about this." Like, nope. So they kind of have their little confrontation, and they're kind of also arguing over Futuro, and she's saying he only like dull, boring guys, and she goes, "What?" I was like, "I believe in inner beauty. I don't believe to just care about people on the outside." Which ends up leading to a cook-off between them two. They both cook something for Futuro, who likes both dishes. That pisses off Nino, because Nino supposedly is the better cook, but Futuro comes from a poor family, so, they don't have, so they're more open to, food's not, not having, he doesn't have the extreme palate, as he'll say. So they end up not studying, so Futuro goes to leave, but once outside, he forgot his flashcard, so he has to buzz Miku to let him back in. She says, "Yeah, just come on in, I'm taking a shower." So he walks in, and there's a Quint in a towel, blow drying her hair. He thinks it's Miku at first. So he's trying to and we find out though it's actually Nino, whose apparently is extremely blind without her contacts. So we get a very long fan service scene here of him trying to grab his flashcards and get out, but she's talking to him and asking him to get her contacts, and it ends up with them in a twist scene where she kind of starts rubbing up against him, trying to reach up and grab him out of an upper cupboard, which causes him to kind of freak out. And then when some books are about to fall off, and then she starts complaining about Futuro, not really thinking she's talking to Miku. And she hits the cupboard, causes some books to fall, and he has to he kind of jumps on her to protect her from the books, because people do that. And that's when she realizes that's somebody else, that it's Futuro, and then Itsuki walks in and takes a picture of him, and we have this little trial scene where they're all accusing him of sneaking in to be a pervert and take pictures of her because he said he came back to take something. And at first Miko's taking up for him, saying, "I let him back in. He forgot something. He came to get the thing he forgot." And then they well, what about the picture? Why is he on top of her? And then she starts to turn on him a little bit. Yeah, what the hell were you doing? And then Itsuki throws the books on the ground. The picture, wait, was he was protecting her? So they end up coming to an understanding that it was just an accident. She pisses off Nina because everyone didn't take her side, so she goes outside. We do have these two button heads and the other part in it, and they kind of both snap at her, which causes her to cry, showing that she is the youngest, so she is the baby, when she acts tough. And he goes to leave and finds Nina locked outside because she forgot her key, and she's pouting on the ground. So he tries to have a heart-to-heart and talk to her, and it doesn't work. It fails, sadly. So then we go to the next day, and Itsuki is showing up to give him his first paycheck, which he doesn't think he earned because he hasn't got the he hasn't been successful in tutoring them. So he lets Rina have the money and says, "What do you want to do? I'll spend it on you." So she wants him and Itsuki to take her to the arcade, so they go and have a little good fun time before they end up running into then he runs until they run to the sisters, because there's a big fireworks festival, which I've heard is a motif for a lot of these. Is there's always a fireworks festival. There's always a school trip and a school festival. And these are themes that they like to put in these types of shows. So it finds out that our girls have a big fireworks tradition, or since with their mother they used to get together and watch the fireworks together. So they have their own things there, and Ninu has rented out a rooftop from the hall to go to on the fireworks, but she fails to tell everyone else where it is, and they all end up getting separated. So only her and Fudro make it there, and he goes. And they have a hard time getting a hold of people on the phone, even though they do get a hold of supposedly her at one point, and she still doesn't tell her where to go. So he goes to go looking for them all, and this also begins some questions where he's trying to question what is his relationship to them. So asked her about it, she says they're strangers. And then at one point, he's spending time with Miku. And someone comes up and asks them, and he says, "We're just acquaintances," which very much angers Miku. And also, the sister, there's something going on with Ichika, so she's kind of has some other guy he spots her with, and she kind of gives up the first fact that, okay, yes, I have a job, I work in like video production kind of stuff. And then you see the guy she was with ends up grabbing Miku by mistake. So he has to go rescue Miku from her. And he pulls Miku around. He says, she is my partner. So he moves up to partners, which now makes her a lot more happy now that that's a title. That makes her more happy that, think that way. Because I think she was at one point going to call them friends. We find out Ichika's secret job is she is an actress, and she has an audition to go to. So he goes and talks to her and has a big heartful talk with her before she goes. And she's starting to respect him more. And he's like, "Well, I'll be here when you get back, and I'll be here when you apologize to all of them." So she goes, she does the audition, nails it. Comes back, she finds him sleeping with his eyes open, which is going to be a common theme for him. He does that a lot. And he takes them back to her sisters, who have all because they bought small fireworks. Yotsuba's been running around with Reina, who's sleeping on a bench. So they decide to have a fireworks display with all of them, a small firework with all 5 of them together. They all accept blame for the night going badly. They all say, "Well, I did this wrong. I did this wrong. I did this wrong." And then it ends with Ichika. So at the very they pick the last fireworks, and Miku picks a doll sparkler. Well, her and Ichika both grab the same thing, and then Ichika lets her have it. And someone's like, "Well, don't you want this one? This one's fancier than that sparkler." She goes, "No, I'm happy with this." Kind of showing like, yeah, she likes the doll thing, like Futuro. So once again, we're building that you're seeing that there's a romance developing with her. Ichika talks to Futuro, tells this big speech that now she's on board, she will study with him. She finds him sleeping with his eyes open again. So he sits down and she lets him put his head, and she puts his head, lays him down lets him sleep on her lap. So she's now on board with the study, and Futuro's won her over. So he's got 3 of the girls now. So the next day, first off, Ichika meets him we'll find this is a common thing where she'll meet him at a coffee store and work with saying that She feels relieved about telling the girl, opening up to her sisters about that, and she thanks him for helping her out with that. We see them studying again. He tries to get Itsuki and Ninu to join their study group. They both withdrew. We have a funny moment where he's saying something that means one thing, but it's completely sounds kind of dirty when he's trying to get Nino to study with him. So nice little wordplay there for a little comic relief. So they're studying, and then when they leave, they talk about he should reward them. There's like he needs to relax. They're going to do their best. We see Ichika kind of. She has a little thing where likes to lightly flirt with him a little bit. So they all decide to go out and get something to go get like a dessert, and they try and get him to go, and he turns them down. To which where we see him at the bus station, where Itsuki confronts him about say you were supposed to go with them. Why didn't you go with them? You've heard they were upset that you didn't go, and then she goes, "I'm also here because my father wants to speak to you." So we have the introduction of the father who hired him, who's saying that, hey, midterms are coming up, and if any of the girls fail, you're fired, pretty much. So it puts him on the spot. So at first he doesn't tell her about what happened, and he just but that ends up he tries to forcefully get her to study, and she just pushes back and refuses to work with him, which just causes the argument to get even worse, and they really got to go at each other. And so he's done some real damage to her. So then we cut to the next day. They're studying all together. So he's studying with the three, and Nina's kind of just hanging out and doing her own thing. Well, he's trying to study with them. They're playing a game. They took a break, and at that point, Nina tries to kick him out. Sorry. And then Ichika steps up and says, No. Fudoro said he was going to... Fudoro, you said you were going to spend the night here and help us cram all night. The surprise of both Fudoro and Nina that she did that. So Ichika's kind of, stepping up for him. So then we have a scene where he's getting washed up in their bath, taking her in their bath. To where Itsuki knocks on the door saying that you want to talk to me. So he apologizes. And then says that, your father said I'm fired if any of you fail. The door flies open, and it's actually Ninu. So now we have our second time. So we had him coming in, accidentally catching her naked, and now she's walking in on him naked. This is kind of a thing between these two as well. They kind of always seem to walking in each other naked. So this is what happened a couple more times. So now she's like, oh, now I know how to get rid of you. So now he knows that he was trying to keep it from her. He was going to tell the other girls about it until Nino showed up. So when he goes back out, they start studying. He's trying to prove to her that he can be helpful, that he's trying to help them. Meanwhile, Ichika's kind of putting together that Miku has been putting it together that Miku has a crush on Futuro, even though she still hasn't admitted it. She's still not admitting it. So there's a couple scenes where she tries to kind of push something to happen there, and so the first one is she tries to push them together. And then he's like asking, hey, ask me anything. I'll help you guys. I'll prove that I can answer your questions. To which Miku asks him, what does he look for in a girl? And then the other girls are all like, we want to know the answer to this too. So he puts together a little game with 3 things he looks for in a girl, and he will only say it when each girl gets done with a page of their assignment. So the first girl gets done, he rips it off. He goes, always cheerful, or something like that. So always being happy. The next girl gets done, it's good at cooking. And then finally the third girl gets done, is like, cares about her brother. And that's where Nino was kind of eavesdropping on the whole thing, and she like, you're talking about your sister. And that's where Fudoro once again says, I was like, I told you guys, I'm not interested in dating. And he's going through the speech. Meanwhile, Miko's looking over it, and she's like, I'm none of these things. And so she's being a little dejected. Ichika once again steps in, says, look, Miku got all her work done. You're supposed to congratulate her. And she puts His hand on her head is which kind of causes like a little moment between the two. Causes a little blushing moment, and then there's an issue. Itsuki comes out and complains about their loudness and borrows Miko's headphones. And that gets, and Ichika takes Futaro out on the balcony. He has a little chat about, yeah, you can solve, you just got to work on it. I'll do what I can, but you got to solve your problems with Itsuki. You can get her to come around. And they have this nice good moment. And he puts his hand on her head, which causes her to freak out. It's like, you just told me that's what I'm supposed to do. It's like, it's cold. Let's go inside. And she goes, it's cold. I'm not cold. So we're starting to see where she's now starting to get a little twinge of a romance for him. So when they go in, Miku decides to give up her bedroom to Futaro, and she goes to sleep. And she's going to share a bed with Ichika. Which, why would you pick the sister that sleeps in the nude? First, I probably might not. I would think you might want to pick one of your sisters that does it. But then we have a scene in the middle of the night. She gets up to use the bathroom. And she goes back to the wrong room. And it ends with her like getting ready to get in bed. Get in the bed that Futaro is sleeping on. And we got some nice little romance music playing for it. You get the most romantically trawling part of Miku actually in that scene, where she kind of always is kind of all reserved and everything like that. They kind of romance her up a little bit, but it ends with her getting ready to get into bed with them. That's the first 6 episodes. Starts with like that. So where we at? That's 41 minutes. So yes, this will be where we will make a cut and then go into the second part of season 1. Because try and keep it not as long. But yeah, so that's our start. So it starts off like that. So halfway through the first season, he's already got these 3 on board to study and about improving their grades. This one's studying, but she doesn't want to have anything to do with studying with him. And she's still against all of it, and she's trying to keep her sisters away from him. But we see she's straight up has a crush on him. And we see the beginning of her crush. And we don't really know much about her feelings for the most part. And we know these two despise him. So that's how the show starts. So tune in. We'll do part 2 of season 1 and next time. Until then, Cachorro out.